Have you really thought about how gig apps put the squeeze on you? Specifically, last mile gig apps. And I may even throw in there about a gig food app. But have you thought about how they put the squeeze on you? We're going to talk about that on this segment of the Gig Geezer. All right, so you know how it goes. If you like the content that's been provided in this segment of the Gig Geezer and any other segment of the Gig Geezer, hit that subscribe button. Give my content a thumbs up. Share my content among others, and I definitely welcome your comments in the section below. Well, today is Monday, August 19, 2024. And this thought came to me over the weekend, but first opportunity today to really kind of put these thoughts together and try to put them in a format for the Gig Geezer channel. I've been thinking about how certain gig apps have put the squeeze on us drivers, and I'm just wondering if you have really paid attention to it. I'm going to get right into it. First app that comes to mind how it has put the squeeze on drivers, and they may or may not even pay attention to it, is Bungii. Now, Bungii is an app that I have a rather established history of bashing. But at the same time, I still do orders on Bungii, but I do them rather judiciously, and that has served me better. I've had more than my share of contract violations on the app, and so this is why I can talk from actual qualified experience. Now, what do I mean by Bungii putting the squeeze on drivers? Well, how Bungii puts squeeze on drivers is the way they put out the orders for drivers to consider. Now, there are various type of orders that I see in my market, the Columbia, South Carolina metropolitan area. There are your tire distributor orders. There are your home improvement orders. And then there are your furniture delivery orders. And then there are your freight forwarding orders. Now, the freight forwarding orders are at a set time, and they usually give you enough time to consider whether you want it or not. It usually comes out a day in advance. And so you've got until... If an order is going to come out tomorrow, like August 20th, 2024 at 1 o'clock, you've got until 10 o'clock on August 20 to unassign yourself from the order without any penalty. Keep in mind the time frame there. That's what I'm getting at. When it comes to home improvement orders, depending on when it comes out, you may actually have the option of setting what time you want to pick it up. Okay, and so let's say that it gives you 3, maybe 4 time slots from 9:30, 10:30, 11:45, and 12:15, something to that effect. But those orders tend to come out the same day, so that's going to set up for where I'm getting at. Then you have your tire delivery orders. Those are pretty much on demand, and so you may have a time frame, but basically, let's say the order comes out at let's say if it's tomorrow, August 20th, 2024. Let's say the order comes out at 8:30. The first opportunity is probably at 9:15, then 10:15, 11:15, and maybe 11:45, something to that extent. And then I mentioned about the moving, the furniture delivery order opportunities. It's pretty much at a set time, but here's where the squeeze comes in. When these orders come out, what I've noticed of late is that Bungii is putting them out well within the 3-hour window. The 3-hour window is a big deal because that is typically the amount of time that you have. If you get an order, let's say it's supposed to be at 2 o'clock, you get it at 10 o'clock, you've got until 11 o'clock to request that you be unassigned from that order, else you may be assessed a contract violation. And if you get enough contract violations within a certain period of time, you run the risk of being deactivated from the app. I've been told it's 3 contract violations within a rolling 30-day period. So what I've noticed is like these, like if you, here's another example then. Here's a couple other examples. If you get a tire order and you accept it, let's say you get a tire order at 9 o'clock and you accept it, and you turn around within 10 minutes and ask to be unassigned, Bungii may assess a contract violation. And so what it's doing is forcing you, these contract violations are forcing you to make a decision of certainty, whether once you accept it, you got to be certain that you're going to complete it, or you may run the risk of contract violations. It's kind of the same thing with CURRI. CURRI is another app that's like that. You run the risk of contract violation for various reasons. And one of them could be because you asked to be unassigned from that order once you accept it. They assume that once you accept it and you go beyond once you hit that purple tab that says, okay, you accepted it all, you acknowledge you accept it, it's on you to complete that order, or if you ask to be unassigned from it, there is a strong possibility that you could incur a contract violation. And if you get 3 of those in a rolling 30-day period, you run the risk of deactivation. So you see how they're narrowing the latitude that you have. Now, I understand it's all about business, but at the same time, things happen. Or you may have accepted it by mistake because you're from a financial standpoint, you see a dollar amount, but then you look at the order and you realize, oh, I don't want this. This is crazy, man. This is not worth my time. But now you're stuck with it. Now, I'm going to say this while I'm at it. There are content creators out there that are really hyping up some of these apps, and I've kind of talked about it before in 2023. The fact these apps have teams of people. They're searching the social media realm, be it TikTok or Instagram or Facebook or YouTube or whatever else is out there, and they're looking for that free exposure. When you go around hyping up these apps, talking about how great they are and how much money you make, and I've been guilty of doing it, but if you've noticed over time, if you go back to 2023, I've also cut back on making reference to these gig apps. I've often said that this is a last mile gig delivery app and it's a home improvement opportunity. I don't really mention the names of the apps as I used to, because I realize that they're using us for the free attention that they're getting, which helps them to sell their app to potential customers. And if you just by chance happen to catch their attention, they may reach out to you. They may reach out to you and try to get you to enter into some type of partnership, in that you're promoting them, and in turn they may actually offer you a referral link in which you may get something from it. There are things that happen. There are things that happen behind the scenes. Now the question is it a one-sided relationship? That I can't tell, because I've not gotten that far with any of these apps to say that. What I do know is that once they feel they've gotten what they could from you, you are last century's news, and that's a fact. But now I mentioned about other apps. Okay, what's another app that puts a squeeze on drivers? GoShare. GoShare does it actually they tell you up front what they expect of the drivers, and you agree. When you're being onboarded, you agree to whatever the stipulations are. And what I mean by that is, drivers understand when you're onboarded with GoShare, there is a financial penalty for unassigning yourself from orders. The first one is free, but then the second one may cost you $20, and then the third one may cost you $50, and any subsequent ones within a certain period of time may lead to your deactivation. So you have to be on the GoShare app sure that this is something that you want to do, or else you can't let those dollars dictate to you how you want to go about doing things, or you may put yourself in a position where you're cursing yourself the entire way and back from completing that opportunity, because of the being mindful of the fact that GoShare may charge you for unassigning yourself from that order. So what's then another app that puts squeeze on drivers? I mentioned about GoShare. I mentioned about Bungii, DoorDash. And by the way, if you like the content that's been provided in this segment or in any other segment, hit that subscribe button. Give my content a thumbs up. Share my content among others, and I definitely welcome comments in the section below. DoorDash puts the squeeze on drivers in addition to the mind games that I've often talked about for years now here on the Gig Geezer channel. The squeeze now is because of the raised completion rate in conjunction with the acceptance rate. For those of you who have gone along with DoorDash's mind game that you may gain higher priority for higher paying orders based on you maintaining at least a 70% acceptance rate, a minimum of a 4.7 driver rating, and a minimum 90% completion rate, which we all must have though, but also maintaining a minimum of 100 completed orders within a 30-day period. That is the squeeze. That is the squeeze, that you're constantly having to maintain these numbers in order to maintain that tier status that you've attained based on your willingness to accept and complete as many orders. And it seems it's pretty much a one-way relationship. It's basically, the $5 word is duress. And an example of duress is if you actually encounter a mobster, and the mobster says, well, your complicity to this situation is highly encouraged. Else, if you choose not to be complicit to this situation, you can take this up with my associate. And my associate, Sonny, is to my right here. And Sonny is 6'7", 350 pounds, whom, if you're in his arms, will squeeze you like a grape, and in turn, then chuck you across the street. Then you got to make a decision which way you're going to do. You're going to go along with this duress, or you're going to let Sonny crush you like a grape and then chuck you across the street. Now, I would be remiss if I did not mention another app, and this is a bonus one, and that app is Frayt. Now, Frayt is an app that I have mentioned in the past. But it's one of those apps that I've kind of kept under wraps, simply because Frayt, at least for me, up until April this year, was a major revenue source. After brokered opportunities, Frayt earned me good money. In 2023, after I had been onboarded onto the app, I earned over $17,000. And then this year, through April, I'd earned over $10,000. But since then, we're talking since May, those numbers have done this. Now you ask, how is Frayt then putting the squeeze on drivers? Frayt is putting the squeeze on drivers as a result of OneRail putting the squeeze on them. And while Frayt may be making money, the drivers are seeing significantly less. In fact, when I made mention in this segment of the Gig Geezer, where I've seen the quality of orders, quality of opportunities, and volume dropping, Frayt was that app that I made the reference of seeing orders dropping by as much as 80%. Now, I'm showing here on the screen, these are some orders that I had completed in 2023. They're paying $200, $300. I even had a couple that paid over $400 in 2023. Well, I'm not seeing those type of orders. In fact, the last time I saw an order that paid $200, the last time I saw orders that paid that much, it's been almost a couple of months now. And the frequency of those orders is almost non-existent. Now, where is Frayt putting the squeeze? 2023 and up until some parts of this year, Frayt would give a load and unload adjustment for orders that were 251 pounds or more, basically non-tire orders that were 251 pounds or more. You could put in a request for a load and unload adjustment. The other thing that was also that was available to drivers was wait time. A place that is notoriously slow in a lot of situations, at least from my experience, is Lowe's home improvement store. And while they are making some improvements, and they've made some improvements, there's still the possibility of you having a significant wait time. And so what happened, at least last year, across all the vehicle categories, if you waited 15 minutes or more, then you could request wait time. In fact, initially it was $1 a minute. Then they changed it to 75 cents a minute. Then they changed it to they broke it down into vehicle categories. If it was a car, SUV, or pickup truck, then you had to wait a minimum of 15 minutes, and then they paid still 75 cents a minute. But then if you were in a Sprinter / cargo van, then you had to wait. Then it had to be at least a 30-minute wait. And so even then, there are situations that I can, countless of situations that I can share in which I waited 45 minutes and upwards to an hour for certain orders, especially the larger orders. The larger the order, or depending on what time of day, was a longer wait. But now, since Frayt has capitulated to OneRail, the aggregator, in which OneRail has imposed its will upon Frayt in that it's cut its rates, number one, and then if there was any load or unload monies, that was included in the offer. Thus, Frayt capitulated in terms of OneRail imposing its will based on Frayt having to lower its rates in accordance with OneRail's contract with its vendors like Lowe's and the tire distributorships like ATD and NTW. That explains for the significant drop in orders. In fact, another thing that I will mention is that OneRail has, and I've mentioned it already in a few Gig Geezer segments, OneRail has redistributed where many of these orders are going to. Many of these orders are not going to DoorDash. They're going to Uber Eats, and depending on the market, Lyft. And then the next tier of orders may be Roadie, Bungii, and GoShare, and Synpax. And Frayt in certain situations is the absolute last option. But here's the thing. Wait time is an inconvenience, but Frayt did pay for that inconvenience at one time. And so they have now capitulated to OneRail in that they must get approval from OneRail as opposed to you putting in for that directly with Frayt. And the most time that you can wait on an order now with Frayt is 45 minutes. After that, then Frayt is looking for you to contact them, and then they're going to cancel out the order outright, and then you only get 75% of the base pay, if memory serves me correct. It's 75% of the base pay or 75% of the offer. But even then, the offers are so low. Now, I mentioned about OneRail redistributing orders in priority to DoorDash and Uber Eats and Lyft and Roadie and Synpax, maybe Synpax and maybe GoShare. Synpax and GoShare are on the tail end of priority, as is Frayt. Here's the deal. Here's an example of somebody picking up 2 toilets on DoorDash, and I saw the app. He more than likely drove there in a car. A toilet order as early as this year might have paid $50, in the $50 range, and 2 of them might have paid anywhere in the $60 to $70 range. On GoShare, 1 toilet may have paid $40, on up and upwards of $50, depending on how long you wait. But now it's going to DoorDash, and those orders may pay $15, and a person jumps at that, thinking that they hit the gold mine because it's more than a food order. But anyway, I'm talking about how these apps are putting the squeeze on drivers. They're putting the squeeze on drivers in terms of how they've been reallocated and reallocated or redistributed for offers, and then they also have made changes in terms of how these orders are going out once they hit that app, and then the requirements or how you're being paid. So that's a lot to talk about. Hopefully it will help you to adjust your strategy to where you'll make these apps work for you, because these apps aren't looking out for you. You've got to make these apps work for you. And with that, this is yet another segment of the Gig Geezer. If you like the content that's been provided in this segment or in any other segment, hit that subscribe button, give my content a thumbs up, share my content among others, and I definitely welcome your comments in the section below. I'm Inwood Lane. As always, may your grind and may your hustle continue.